play can win a football game. One game can make a season.
And one player, any player, may make or break a play, a game, a season. There are approximately 150 plays in a football game, and there are only 3 or 4 plays in any game which make the difference between winning and losing. No one knows when the big play is coming up. Therefore, every player must go all out on every play. In other words, every player has a responsibility on every play, and that responsibility begins with the proper use of his given talent. The development of all talent is founded on fundamentals, and in football, the first of the fundamentals is the basic football position. Football has a basic position. Feet spread, knees flexed, a slightly sitting position with the weight evenly distributed. It is from this position that all football movements must stem.
The basic football position. All players, whether on the offense or the defense, assume this position or move through it. For it is the basic position from which everything stems, including the basic offensive stance.
The offensive football stance, from which all offensive movement stems, is with the feet spread, just slightly outside the width of the shoulders, with the right foot staggered and a right-handed stance with the toe of the right foot to the heel of the left foot, with the right hand down, with the weight evenly distributed on the tripod of the fingers and the 2 feet, with the right arm just inside the knee of the right leg. The buttocks slightly higher than the shoulders, and the shoulders square. Sometimes it is a little bit difficult to get the shoulders square. A good teaching point is to drop the left arm in the same position as the right arm until the shoulders are exactly square, and then to lift the left arm and keep it just about even with the knee, which will keep the shoulders square again. Both heels are off the ground slightly, with the right heel slightly more higher than the left heel, and from this position that the football player uncoils.
This is the offensive stance. Feet and shoulders properly positioned. Head up, neck firm, but not straining, and tail slightly higher than the shoulders. And offensive football begins with the center. The center stance is the offensive stance, with the feet spread at shoulder width, the toes of the right foot opposite the arch of the left foot. As the center takes his position over the ball, which is before him with the laces up, his head is slightly behind the ball because a center can be offside too. The center places his right hand on the ball with only the thumb touching the front end of the laces. The other fingers of his right hand are under the ball. He places his left hand on top of the back end of the ball, and it merely rests there. The snap is executed with only the right hand and arm, but placing the left hand on the ball will ensure better balance. The snap or delivery of the ball is made with a simple and natural pendulum swing that never changes. The arm is straight and comes back hard and fast, following the same path every time. As the locked arm passes the right knee, the center will find that this pendulum swing produces a natural quarter turn of the ball and presents it with the laces in perfect position for the quarterback's grip. When the snap is correctly executed, the ball always arrives in the quarterback's hands with the laces under the second joints of the fingers of his passing hand. He does not have to seek the laces. This is particularly important when the play is a quick pass. All the quarterback has to do is raise the ball and throw. Remember, in the snap, the essentials are uniformity, firmness, and speed. The center must not lift his tail with the snap. If he does, he will force the quarterback's hands up, losing the target. The perfect snap is always identified by that pop as the ball strikes the quarterback's hands. Here in a game, notice how that snap by the center and the drive of the offensive line are one and the same, beating the defense to the charge. The practice field, of course, is where you perfect the timing of that snap and charge, where the team learns to come off that ball on the snap as one man. This is the cadence drill. There are two types of cadences that are used in football, really, the rhythmic and the non-rhythmic. For example, in the rhythmic cadence, hut, 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 where there's a set length of time between each hut. In the non-rhythmic cadence, there is no set length of time. And an example of a non-rhythmic cadence would be on three, for example, hut, 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 or hut, 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 or hut, hut, hut. Any type of non-rhythmic. We prefer the non-rhythmic cadence. And the reason we do, it prevents anticipation by our offensive line of a snap count. In other words, it allows them to get off as a unit rather than like a typewriter. And it also prevents anticipation by the defensive line in anticipating our count. The quarterback can snap that ball at any time. He can hold it. He can hold it until the defense is on the verge of making a mistake, probably. For example, on three, hut, hut, and he can sit there and watch that whole defensive line. And at the opportune time, he can give that third hut, which would snap the ball. Hut! We have been discussing the center, in particular his responsibilities in the center quarterback exchange. In addition to these responsibilities, he must be able to make all of the offensive blocks. In the latest segment of this series, we will cover the drive block and pass blocking. But now, let's look at two blocks that the center makes more often than any other player: the cutoff block and the down block. The cutoff block is used to prevent pursuit. One example, the center must get the middle linebacker starting in the direction of the play. The blocker pushing off the rear foot and driving over the front foot makes his first step in the direction of the man he is assigned to block. On contact with the man, he throws his arm, shoulders, and head beyond the far leg of the opponent. He then goes to all fours and keeps moving in a crab-like motion. If he is going to release his man, he must release him to the rear. Watch now as the center moves quickly to his man, throws his arm, shoulders, and head between the man and the runner, drops to all fours and keeps crabbing. The blocker then is lost to sight, but the back isn't. He just scored. The down block, or the block back, is used by the center when he must block a defender who is offset to either side of him, or when that defender is attempting to penetrate, as in a gap or goal line defense. The blocker's first step is with his near foot. It is a short step, and he aims his head at the crotch of the opponent, anticipating that the defensive man will move on the snap of the ball. If the blocker does not get his head in front and aims at the hips, he will lose his man because that man may beat him across the line of scrimmage. He must aim at the crotch. He makes his contact with the far shoulder and keeps his head in front of the man. If the defensive man does not penetrate, the blocker moves into a reverse body block to prevent the defensive man from spinning out. Here is an example of a good down block. Notice the center, he aims his head at the crotch, makes his contact with his far shoulder, and as the opponent tries to spin off, he keeps his head in front of that man. Now watch the center as the middle linebacker tries to move into the hole.